Hey, Shangy, how you doing, man?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Like I still lose a lot of TVTs, but at least I know like what went wrong.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a uphill battle. Terran is it
hmm
is the race of mastery of perfecting a build and executing it.
Um, yeah, so I think we talked over email today. I'm looking to like polish a TvZ build.
Yep.
Um,
I watched the video. I got an idea what you're going for.
yeah. Um, so like I did one against bots about the best timing I could hit.
Sure.
And then I also have a game that was against a real opponent, which I was trying to perform the build.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's
It,
a first game, so so it wasn't that crisp. But anyways, like even against bot, I could only hit like 720.
sure.
So yeah.
The one thing that'll I think one of the things that'll make this a lot like I okay, so I think this kind of goes in like maybe two stages for you to
hmm
really like
hmm
learn it faster. The first one would be maybe just doing it against bots and just getting comfortable
hmm
with the build, and that'd be fine. Just like feeling like you're comfortable with the timings of like when you're doing things. And then
hmm
the next way is the harder way that you do need to do over time is going to be learning how to feel confident to not throw your units away while you're being aggressive, because that's what makes this build really good is finding opportunity to do damage but at the same time not losing your units, because uh, the thing that I saw in when I watched it, and it's very
hmm
true, is if you lose your Hellions and you go for your push with Tank Marine, your base is very susceptible to counterattacks if you don't have those Hellions. So
hmm
it's like super important that they stay alive.
hmm
And the longer they stay alive, the more you just slow Zerg down because you just distract them longer and longer. I feel it every day when I play Terran against Terran on ladder. I'm like, fucking god, this this guy just will not let me kill his units. This is so annoying. So yeah,
Okay.
that'll definitely be the sort of like focus for sure. Uh, I guess we can just check out really quick your first one where you do against bots and just see if like what you're doing feels like it's running well.
hmm
All right, my game is like loading again.
So the thing is against like Ling Bane opponents,
Yeah.
like so I basically like in my TvZ today, like I face like three types of Zergs. Like the first type, they go pull first,
Uh huh.
and I die to some early aggression. And then the other type, they go standard, which is hatch before pull, and then just do this massive like standard macro style. And then I think at this level I start to like get to opponents who could really out macro me. Like when I hit their fourth, like there was one time I took down a base. I thought it was a fourth, it was actually a fifth. Like I checked the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then the third type is just people who were doing standard who couldn't macro well. So I usually win those games. But yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. So like if basically if your Hellions should always so like let me say it like this. This is there's like multiple stages that you should be doing in the game with your units, and this is why like attacking with it is so different than just macroing against an AI and just like trying to get like timers down. Because when you attack somebody with your units, you should know where their bases are constantly, because you should be constantly poking with Hellions, and you should like that, because it's not like the biggest most annoying thing you can do to Zerg to guarantee your Hellions won't die, and this is what I 100% would recommend you to do, is don't ever try to kill drones uh, unless like you for sure know the Zergs like Zerglings are way out of position, or you just killed them. That's probably, you know what? Don't ever do the position thing. If you just killed them because he chased you and you actually got to like kite them and kill them off of creep, then you can go kill some drones if you want. But otherwise, never even try to kill drones, because what you should do is you should just kill creep. You should just go to the left and the right and the left and the right, like just constantly go back and forth on the outside of Zerg's base and kill creep. Just kill creep over and over and over, and it'll make your actual tank push that you do later way more effective. And when you kill creep like this, you should be going like back and forth on both sides of the Zerg's base, and you're checking also, did you take a fourth yet? Did you take a fourth yet? Did you take a fourth yet? And if he doesn't take a fourth because you know he doesn't have a base there, then it just makes your you know where to send your it sets up your tank push when you do your tank push, so you know how many bases he's on when you do it. But yeah, like killing creep is huge, and it's a good way to also skirt the side of the base, so you can always see where he expands. And then your Liberator as well could just be the thing that actually tries to kill drones and be annoying in the like center of the base of Zerg, like back in the main or something.
Should I use scans to kill creep or no?
No, honestly, not really, because the only reason why a scan would ever be good, like you should definitely scan creep when you have your tanks there, but it's really risky or it's like really kind of a waste for you to scan creep when you're just on Hellions, because the chances of you pushing the creep back is very unlikely, because all Zerg has to do if you scan creep is push you away with queens and then replant it. And then your Hellions take damage, which is bad for you. And also, you waste the scan instead of using a mule, so it's going to throw your build off.
Okay.
So yeah, with this build, I would definitely say just save your scans, for sure. Alright, I'll share my screen as well. There we go. Discord. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what you're doing, dude. Okay. And we'll talk about moments of the game too, when something would make sense or what you should do. That would keep you safe. Because one thing you said you weren't really confident about is getting all in, right? Like if someone like opened up with gas and decided to all in you, like if you should keep making Hellions. That's one of the things you're worried about or thinking about.
Yeah, like so I think the first thing is I don't know if I should cancel my because usually when I scout it's when I already have my base at the low ground, right? So the first thing I'm not sure is if I should I make a bunker low ground or high ground?
You should never never make a bunker low ground ever.
Okay.
It like you can't, like, let me say it like this. You can make a bunker low ground, but the odds of you defending that are so much lower than if you make a bunker high ground. Like, whenever I see a Terran make a bunker low ground when I'm Zerg against them, I'm happy. I'm like, yep, cool. Now this is gonna be way easier to kill you, because it's the thing that makes it really hard for Zerg to break a Terran is the squeeze, like the choke point of the ramp, and also lack of vision. Because one of the things you can do to really just fuck over the Zerg, if the Zerg is like a little all in, like, or like they're doing a timing, but it's not like a super all in, it's just annoying. Yeah, you can always use the wall, the choke point, whatever, to help you to be fine. And if worst comes to worst, you can always cancel your command center and rebuild it, because you're not going to be that far behind anyways. If or maybe even at all, if the Zerg is like doing a committed timing and he's not also droning himself. But one of the things that's really nice is if the Zerg is actually doing a full-on all-in to you, and you have to alter the build to now be all-in defense. No, I can't die anymore. I need to like defend this now, so I have to alter the build. You can make a Cyclone on the high ground, and you can target the Overlord with it every time the Zerg tries to use it for vision, and then the Zerg just loses vision, and he always has to run up the ramp getting shot for free every single time, and it sucks. And you can always, the Cyclone is super effective there, and then you can make things behind it. Like, you can make a tank behind it, you can make Banshee behind it. If we're talking about like a full-on like Ravager all-in or something like that, or if he's like really committed to it, like roaches and shit. But yeah, I would definitely say bunker high ground always, because it buys you time, and it like the odds of you being able to actually buy time with bunker high ground is realistic, and the odds of you buying time with bunker low ground is not realistic, because your SCVs have no way to like be safe on the low ground. That is, like, they can just get picked off and killed, and then your bunker dies.
Like, so if I don't have a bunker low ground, then like let's say 4 roaches come by, like it's okay for me to cancel the base.
100%. I'm going to tell you right now, if a Zerg player goes for a roach build, their economy sucks. Like, that needs to do damage. And you should be able to... by the way, this is another way to say it too. If a Zerg player does a roach build, and it's like a roach build that's actually going to hit you... This is really important to know this, okay? This is I'm going to say this in a way that I hope will make sense, but if it doesn't, please ask. But there are 2 kinds of roach builds for Zerg. And one of them will hit you before your command center on the low ground is done, and one of them will not hit you before the command center is done, so you can always just lift it off. The only kind of roach build that will hit your command center before the command center is done is a proxy hatchery. So you would 100% see no natural at the Zerg's base when you scout. And then that's when you could go, okay, immediately make a bunker high ground because this guy doesn't have a natural. And if worst comes to worst, I don't finish it, I can always just cancel it and rebuild it in the main. But the Zerg is really committed if he proxy hatches you, and he like that needs to do something. If he just does nothing with that, it's not great for Zerg. So like, but if it's like a 2-base build, and the Zerg is like going roaches still, but when you scout him, he does have a natural. That's going to be a little bit delayed because he's not like proxied across the map with it. So the larva has to literally walk the roaches across the map, which is going to create a lot more time there. That kind of a build will hit you when your command center is already finished, guaranteed, and you can just lift it off if worst comes to worst, and still have a bunker, and just be like, cool, I'll just float back to my main for a sec and just defend this and then retake my natural.
Okay.
So yeah, seeing the natural is just your biggest thing you should worry about with the Reaper. Okay, and then also with this, the way this is, so if you want, let me say it like this too. If you want to do exactly what that guy did, that's totally fine. Like that, I mean, the build was fine. I have no problem with it. It looked pretty clean. And I don't have like an eidetic memory of everything exactly as it went down, but I mean, I could break down what's pretty much efficient about it. And you don't need SCV scout anymore if you want to do it the way that they did it, because the way that that build went is you actually will cover your potential of missing lings with Marines. So you're gonna make 2 Marines and like behind the Reaper before you make a reactor. And that if the Zerg did actually go for any type of like a little bit of a ling poke, those 2 Marines would actually be able to like smash a lot of those Zerglings that would show up, like the 6 slings that would show up, because you could just like kite back, kite forward, poke them, and run the SCV around. And if the Zerg literally just beelines your Marines, you could always pull like an extra like 3 SCVs off the middle line just to body the lings for a second, so your Marines can just kite back and then try to micro it in a way where you don't lose any SCVs, which if you just make the SCVs tank for like 2 seconds and run away, they should be fine.
I thought you just made 1 Marine.
No, so you do only make 1 Marine, but you can't. You make a 2nd Marine and you cancel it if the Zerg is not actually.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah. So like, because you actually need a 2nd Marine. If the so like you would see it with the Reaper, if you got to the Zerg's base and you're like, okay, natural's late and lings are running to my base. Like you would see, like if the Zerg wanted to make more than 6, which they usually would, if he has like 7 and 8, 9 and 10 out there, like the 2 extra larvae that would come out a little bit later after the first 3, you would see those crossing with the Reaper because of the timer of like how it would line up. And you would also see the Zerg's natural is not done when you get there. It's like halfway done, or like maybe like 60% or something, or 70%. Like it's still under construction, which clearly means pool first. Then you could let a 2nd Marine finish to be on the safe side. But if you see a hatchery but when your Reaper gets there, hatchery should be done already if it's a standard build. So that's when you would cancel Marine number 2 and just instantly make the reactor as you make the factory.
Okay.
Or you would already have a factory started, but yeah.
So this scout is part of the reason that my build is late?
Well, it's just, if you think about it, you're not fully saturated on the middle line, right? And this SCV has been scouting for a good probably 25 seconds already, because you literally ran from your mineral line up to here now, which is probably taking about 25 seconds. And that's an extra 25 minerals you could have in your bank right now. And every second that goes by beyond this is another mineral this guy could have mined. Because an SCV, like any worker in the game, averages about 1 mineral per second. Especially on a optimal mineral line, where it's not oversaturated. So it's getting 100% efficiency of what it should get. So this is going to slow you down a little bit. And it like if you do the build the way they did it, it kind of is redundant if you do the Marine thing, because you're covering it anyways. And now you like if this is a real player and you saw no natural, you would then be like, okay, yep, it's either proxy hatch or it's whatever it's called, just like pool first with something in the main. That's so this is actually, I want to make sure you know this, but there should almost always at 2 minutes be a 2nd hatchery started for Zerg, okay? And especially when your Reaper gets here, your Reaper would probably get here at like 215, 220. By then especially, there should be a natural at least started for Zerg. And if there isn't, the only reason why there wouldn't be a natural for Zerg is because this guy would have to have something with double gas, and he's going super, super, super all in with it. And he can't afford a hatchery for whatever reason, which is most likely going to be roach-based. And maybe he even did something as crazy as getting, like, burrow. But, like, even if he was going for roaches, he could afford a second hatchery right now if he just wanted to use, like, basic roaches and ravagers.
Okay.
So this would be a fucking... like, this is a massive red flag in a real game. If you didn't see it by 2 minutes, and you should absolutely make a bunker. And do it, like, against your depot or something. Or, like, on either side. Probably on... Here's a tip as well. Probably do the bunker on the side that is not exposed to the cliff on the outside. Because if this guy... If you actually put a bunker here, and this guy had an overlord there, he could actually just start attacking your bunker from the top as well. That would just make it more annoying. It would make it harder for SCVs to repair it.
Do I need to make, like, leave a space between the bunker and the depot?
Just be willing to sacrifice the depot, because every single gap you... Like, if you put your bunker here, your bio in the bunker will shoot to the edge of the ramp. But if you back it up a little bit and put your bunker, like, right there instead, your bio will not shoot the edge of the ramp anymore. You're going to allow Zerg to, like, walk up the ramp and see the edges of your depots and the edge of your reactor before you start shooting them. Like, the attack range will be shorter because you're further away.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just be willing to lose the depots if the Zerg is super all in like that. That's totally fine. It's like expected. Alright, and then you're making your SCVs, making your depot, making your Hellions. You'll start stim pack and just make SCVs still.
No, I think that's... oh, sorry. I thought you said Marines.
No, yeah, you're definitely not going to make Marines until a while later, like a full, like 90 seconds later.
So here at this point, my Liberator is always gas starving. I'm not sure if it's the right thing to prioritize stim over lib or to wait for a bit.
It's definitely the right thing to prioritize lib over stim. Because you're not doing a stim timing. So having stim, like if this build was Marine focused, I definitely would say stim over lib. But all you're gonna do with stim pack is you're gonna sit back defensively, anyways. So like for the initial minute or two after you have it, so it doesn't matter. Like you'll definitely want to prioritize the lib because you want to slow Zerg down as fast as you can, and the lib is the thing that's gonna do that for you.
Okay.
And this Reaper right here in your future games, this is a huge deal, okay? Huge deal. Right now, on your Reaper, you should absolutely, or, okay, before right now, let's actually back it up for a second to where this would be. You should definitely do this to make sure you're not gonna die, essentially. So, you scout, you poke him with the Reaper, you do whatever. Your first Reaper poke should do one thing, okay? You should have like a two-stage Reaper type of attack. Your first Reaper movement here should be kind of fixated on the natural, and you should poke the natural a little bit. Definitely do not dive drones. Try, like, if you get really confident with the Reaper, you can start diving drones, but really try to not lose this Reaper. Okay, it's really important. So you can poke it. You can make him pull lings out. You can try to kill some lings. You can maybe kill a drone if he really allows you to do that. But at all costs, try to keep this guy alive. And try to also make sure he's not about to die as well when the queen spawns. Try to make sure he's like at least like 3 bars. Like we're talking like 45 to 50 HP or above that when the queen spawns. And when the queen spawns, this is humongous. Walk away. Wait for about 5 seconds. And then go right back in. Because there's 2 reasons. First reason is you want to see what the guy does with his queen energy. And the second reason is if he does use an inject, or if he does use a creep tumor, if you kill that creep tumor, that fucks over the Zerg so much more. And if you actually accomplish that, your first Hellion drive-by could literally try to kill drones if this guy takes a third, because the creep will not be connected and it'll be way harder for him to defend that. But again, do not lose your Hellions. So like that's a judgment call. It just makes it easier to do damage. So Going back to what I said about the Reaper though, for a second, if you kill the creep tumor, that's just amazing for you because you stall out the Zerg's creep, which is always really good. That's amazing. That's like a top tier priority for Terran, just always, especially if you're gonna do a timing later on. If the Zerg's creep is worse, it just makes you more effective as Terran. But if you also see, oh, he didn't make a creep tumor. Scratch your head, huh? Why did you not make a creep tumor? This guy is probably gonna do a timing. So you can like already predict you're gonna need to defend something if he skips creep tumor. Like, it's not guaranteed, but it's likely. So if you see this Zerg player does not, like any Zerg player does not make a creep tumor, your next immediate reaction should be, I need to get in that main and look at your gas. Because if you're mining that shit with 3 non-stop, and let's say when you get into the guy's base and he's already mined 280 gas when you see it, you're definitely going to be like, oh, okay, I should probably make a bunker because I'm about to get hit by a timing. And that would be a moment too where instead of getting stim pack right away, you could actually swap off and make you could actually make it that with that if that was the situation where like it's a bit later, then you could actually bunker low ground it. You don't always have to bunker high ground it. It's just bunker high ground is only important if you don't have access to a siege tank. But as soon as you have access to a siege tank, you could put the tank wherever you think would make sense to keep your base alive. Like there would be fine or something, and the bunker could be like right there, so you could like have the tank tucked back so the Zerg has to dive for it and he really gets fucked up to kill it if he tries. But you could make like 1 tank or something and then make bio with it and then switch back to making Hellions if you think you're going to be okay, or when you think you're going to be okay. But that Reaper is so important right now. So does that, the way I kind of explained that, does that make sense, or did something not
Yeah. But like sometimes when I dive in, I see that the guy didn't pull off gas. It's only 1 gas, and then this time at my level, I think so. Sometimes I feel like it's people just forgot it, and
like,
then I'm not that confident to alter my build just because of that minor hint.
I'm going to tell you right now though, if the Zerg, if there's a couple things that go with it. If the Zerg does not even have a 3rd base and he doesn't have I would, okay, let me say it like this. This would make it more realistic. Because this would circumvent the whole I wonder if he forgot to take off gas thing. If you don't see a creep tumor, that's the first stage of seeing it all in. If he doesn't take off gas, that's the 2nd stage of seeing it all in. You should absolutely scout this guy's base, okay? And if you see a Baneling nest, you do not need to swap your build up. If it's a Ling Bane all in, you can easily defend that with Hellions. And a Lib or whatever, you'll be fine. But if it's a Roach Warren, if you go okay, no creep tumor and still mining gas, and I'm like let's say you're right here in his base, and this is the gas geyser he took, or you're right here in his base, and this is the gas geyser he took. Just commit a little bit deeper, and if you lose the Reaper at that point, I mean, ideally you don't want to, but if you do, but you see a Roach Warren, you should definitely swap the build up, because if you just keep making Hellions against 2 base Roach all in, you're gonna die. So the Roach Warren would be your final indicator there. If this guy is doing all these signs that say, I'm gonna get all in right now. And okay. you don't always have to commit the Reaper like that. It's just if he especially if he doesn't make a creep tumor and he doesn't have a 3rd. Like those 2 things are definitely, I'm gonna macro a little bit, and even if he does poke you, it's probably not gonna be all in focused with Roaches and Ravagers. It's probably gonna be like a Ling poke, which is not all in. So Hellions would be totally fine to deal with that.
3rd base is 3 minutes, right?
3rd base, yeah, is 3rd base for Zerg. About now, yes. As soon as the Reaper arrives, and especially after you do that little creep tumor minigame I just said, there should absolutely be a 3rd down if the Zerg wanted to take a 3rd. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like he should be trying to take it because it'll be a little late then. And a creep tumor is also a sign of wanting to protect the 3rd. And then after you scout with the Zerg, with your Reaper, and you get some type of an idea as to what's going on, you can always then kind of you can do what you're doing right now. Just keep it alive. Actually, you know what? No, don't even do this. I don't know why I just said that. You're going to lose it if you do this. As soon as you get a read, okay, on what the Zerg is doing. What 3rd base, creep tumor inject, is he still mining gas? Is there a Roach Warren? As soon as you understand these or find these things out, if the Reaper's still alive, which hopefully it will be, because again that's the high priority, get him back right now, because at normally against most Zergs who play standard, at 3:30 to like 3:35, Speedling is gonna kick on, and if you haven't left his base yet, this dude's gonna die. So 3:30 should be like, if you're not already, like really like 3:20 should be your moment to get the fuck out of there, because if you don't leave by 3:20, every second that goes by, your Reaper is just getting more likely to be killed. And you don't have Hellions yet to cover him. But if you actually went home right now, you would have Hellions to cover him here, and your Hellions would build up. And the Reaper's actually nice with Hellions because it allows you to engage creep tumors and have the Reaper get hit and not the Hellions, and then the Reaper just regens. So you don't like compromise your Hellions by taking damage every time you kill creep.
So at this point, should I move out with 2 Hellions and 1 Reaper, or should I wait until I have 2 Hellions at home?
If I were you, I would wait until you have this walled off.
Okay.
So what I would say you should do is you should go home with this Reaper and you should defend with the Hellions, and you should wait until you start a CC to finish the wall here, and then go out with like 4 Hellions, because you should be able to make a CC here pretty soon, your 3rd CC. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. The way you did that in a normal game, that's perfect. It's perfect, because now your rally point is going to be able to cover if new Lings show up, and the CC is going to be very tanky. It's also going to be somewhat blocked with SimCity. Like there's not a massive amount of surface area here that Zerglings can hit it, so the odds of it dying are very low. So this is what you should absolutely be doing in a normal game if you saw your opponent was playing standard. Like this would be great, and then your Lib should go towards like maybe the main, and your Hellion should go maybe towards more the 3rd. And the reason why you should do that is because you should always dictate. This is something you should think about, okay? And this is a concept you should think about on. Apply this to whenever the map pool changes, if that ever happens again, and go, okay, new maps. How should I execute this build if I'm still doing it? Hellions go where you want creep to be limited, where your push is going to eventually go. That's how it always should go. So if you're going to do a siege tank push that goes up this pathway eventually, and you're going to push like here to the 3rd or something, or if he took a 4th, you're going to push there or something like that, you should absolutely keep creep out of this area as much as you can, because it just makes this area easier to push, and you'll just have more success doing this.
But at this phase, I wouldn't know where he is going to take the 4th, right?
No, definitely not. The Zerg is not going to take a 4th for a while either.
Oh no, I mean I'm not gonna know where he is. Like he could do it a line, or he could do the 4th like below his base, right?
Sure.
So then, should I just try to limit?
So you okay? Let me say like this. Sorry, I know what you're saying, because like if the Zerg does take a 4th, you know you can go kill the 4th and deny the Zerg from taking a 4th base. These Hellions should not be only sitting here. Okay, they should not be only sitting here. These should definitely be rotating back and forth, like around, not going through his base, but going around it and killing anything you can creep-wise. And if you can actually kill the Zerg's creep so much that like the 4th is isolated, and or the 4th here is isolated, then obviously you can kill the 4th base. But if the Zerg player has a 3rd base and the creep is limited here, and let's just hypothetically say he started a 4th base here, but let's say the Zerg did a better job of defending creep on this side because you were more focused on this side. If the Zerg's creep is like all the way down to here and there's the 4th, but this side the creep is like literally right there, and that's his 3rd, I would actually say you should attack the 3rd instead of the 4th. So you just want to attack where the creep is more limited. And this map, maps like this, where it's like main, natural, 3rd, go backwards, and there's your 4th. It's always an option to attack the 3rd. But if it was a map where, like, let's say this base did not exist, and let's say it was like this was the potential of that location where it's a bit more exposed, so then the order of bases would go main, natural, 3rd, 4th, then this would obviously always be where you would attack because it's in a line directly from the 3rd. And if you're working on creep at the 3rd, the 4th is going to be the obvious target.
Okay. I think this time around here is where I need to do a lot on the build, where I can't split my attention to Hellions too much. I've been losing Hellions a lot this phase, like in real games.
For sure. And the best way to tell you how I think you should do that is at this phase of the game, around 4.5 minutes, never attack drones. Just never attack drones. Literally, keep them safe off of creep. And then when you have a moment to spare, check creep, back off. Like, don't even commit to the Zerg's base anymore. Like, only attack the edges of creep. And if Zerg wants to chase you off creep, that's wonderful. Because now you can actually realistically take a fight that's off of creep, and it's way easier to take an advantageous engagement there for yourself. And if you really wanted it on a map like this to make your life really easy, put your dudes out as a Naga tower. If you literally put them like right there, not only would it give you vision and a warning on the map to go, oh, he's coming towards me, and I have a second to react because I have a lot of vision with the Zelnaga tower. That's great. But if let's just say worst case scenario, you don't even react to having vision because you're distracted, and you're like, oh shit, he actually attacked me and surrounded me, and I wasn't ready for it. At least if you're tucked into a bit of a choke point and you have some type of a SimCity blocker, like a terrain blocker, your Hellions will get better cleave damage because you'll be tucked into a back corner, and Zerglings won't get full surface area. They won't get like a full surround if you're in the middle of nowhere. So,
Okay.
and it's not that far away from the base either, because creep is literally going to be like right there the whole time, and you're sitting the same screen length away from it, which is acceptable. So whenever you want to AFK the Hellions, you can just do that.
And is it important that I should stay away from Overlord vision, or it
No,
doesn't really matter?
doesn't matter.
No.
That does
Okay.
not matter. There's gonna if the Zerg is good, there's gonna be Overlords everywhere. There's gonna be Overlord on every entrance to his base. So that's unavoidable.
Okay.
Just make sure that you're not sitting on creep or really close to it, like as when you're AFK with your Hellions, and then put as little attention as possible to your lib. So one of the best things you can do with the Liberator, okay, is make sure it's hotkeyed, which you do, which is great. I love that you have it. Like, you actually dedicate a hotkey to it. You know, just like unselect it. But when you have a Liberator, try to put your Liberator in spots that are annoying as fuck. Like, I'm gonna say it like this: the further back you are, and that it still clips the mineral line, is the more annoying of a spot it will be for Zerg to deal with. Because the further back you go, the deeper Zerg has to commit into attacking it. And if the Zerg ever builds tech behind the mineral line, you can absolutely abuse that by using that as like, okay, well, let's just say there was like a spawning pool like right there. Okay? And the Zerg walled off that side of the mineral line. Some Zergs do this shit. He walls off the side of the mineral line right there to the edge of the cliff. If you put your Liberator like right there, like just barely out of range of where if a queen was standing on the left side of the pool, it can't hit the lib up here on this side, so it has to come from the right side. And if you focus the circle in a way where it's like this, like, or like if your lib was right here and your circle was like this, like it hits the mineral line and it like covers both gaps where the mineral line could open. That's like best case scenario. Being creative with your lib is important. So what I'm trying to say is, definitely try to not just siege it like greedily over the entire mineral line, and then have it in a way where like there's a huge gap. Like that's definitely not going to go the best for you. Because the only way this works out well for you is if you know a queen is not going to be here because it's distracted, or the Zerg is distracted, and you want to be like, you just want to guarantee you get like 3 or drunk kills or something, and then you're going to unsiege as the queen shows up and leave. But this, if the Zerg was not being distracted, if you're not doing a Hellion attack with it, this is never going to do well. It's the way you sieged it here. So like instead, what I would say is, instead of sieging it like this, now let's just hypothetically say there's nothing behind the mineral line, okay? This is how the Zerg is playing in a real game. Everything is open. Queens can go anywhere. I would say put your lib like right there, and then siege like to where the field is like this. So you hit a mineral patch, which makes it annoying. Even if you only hit one mineral patch, it is fucking annoying for Zerg. It is the worst shit ever. And as long as only like one queen at a time can attack the Liberator, your lib will be annoying for longer. And then you can always re-siege it and move and back up and siege on the queen if the Zerg isn't paying attention and maybe kill the queen. And that's fine too. But you just want to make sure your lib is going to last. The concept here, I would say, is important, is making the liberator last, not making it die to get like one more drone kill faster.
Okay.
And yeah, if you ever see a Terran do this, for real, I want to make sure you always think about it this way. If you ever see a Terran siege a liberator just like this, where it's like fucking in the middle of their face, the only reason why they would ever do it like this is because they're gonna multi-prong. And they just don't give a shit. They don't want to pay attention to it. Because they're actually paying attention to Hellions that are currently attacking drones or lings or something. But if they don't multi-prong, they will never do it like this. All right.
So like this phase in his build, like after the third, he did 2 barracks and then swaps, and then after that it's double eBay, double gas, and a depot, right? But after he did the depot, like if you pause right now, there's a guy building a depot on the
Natural.
there, right?
Yeah.
And then in his build already he doesn't have this. However, if I don't make this, I just sometimes I got my medevacs like supply blocked at 85. So I just figured maybe I should just keep building, but I think that might affect some timings.
I mean, it's really just about, you know, keeping, like, as long as, so the biggest priority of all is obviously always going to be your SCVs, okay? Making sure the SCVs are pumping the entire time, and that's going to never, ever cease to, like, it's never going to stop. And then when you swap into going into now heavy bio production with tank behind it, as long as you can afford this, you're fine. And then the third priority would definitely be, like, least priority is going to be your starport at this point. And I would say if you have to delay your medevacs for a second, that's not the end of the world. But obviously, if you make this depot and you can still maintain priority of SCVs, and you can still maintain priority then of Marines and tank after that, and then, you know, if that's not being held back by, because you can't make medevacs right now anyways because you have a reactor being built on it, but if you can still maintain all your production while squeezing in this depot, it's not a bad depot. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
Okay, and then right about now, you would want to, so you're going to make your medevacs in a second here. You're going to make another depot again. And here pretty soon, you're going to want to definitely make that armory. I would say definitely make your units before armory, though. Yeah, there you go. You made it. Perfect. That's a really good time. Like, perfect timing.
I'm already late, right, at this point?
Yeah. So, like, yeah, you did block for a second there. But, I mean, it's not like... It's not the... Like, so, basically, this is the thing about Terran that's fucking weird. Is... when you have like a flow and a tempo with your base where it's like, okay, I'm keeping on top of it, I'm keeping on top of it, I'm keeping on top of it, everything feels good, I'm making depots, as like depots finish, I make another depot, basically, shit like that, like we're doing great. But having to anticipate the explosion of supply with now an explosion of depot is something that you definitely need to do. So I would say the mistake I think you made here that you could fix in the future would be run a couple SCVs up to where your command center is right now, right as it's going to finish. Because the second it's done, drop a mule and immediately lift it off. And then immediately make depots under it. Because you could make depots like at 544. Because there's no reason why you can't do that right now. But you start making SCVs on this, and then you drop a mule, and then you lift off. Which is fine. It's not like I'm like, oh, that's so long. But you have no SCVs here. And now you have almost 400 minerals. So now there's time that's going to go by where you're not making a depot, and you want to prioritize this location. So now you're going to run further to do that. which is you should go here with depots. I'm not telling you to build depots behind the mineral line or something. You should definitely wall yourself off, but you didn't anticipate, you know, by bringing SCVs before you did this. So like depots should already be started by now. So these depots are super late, and that's why you can fix that in the future. Like these depots are like the first depot is, you know, probably like 15 seconds late. This depot is like 18 seconds late. And it's definitely going to block you for sure. Because by the time, or like, yeah, by the time like your command center is landed, these depots are only like 10 seconds and 7 seconds of the way into production. And this takes a while for this shit to fly all the way over here. So yeah, I feel like that's an easy fix. Just make sure you run SCVs. Like as the orbital is like 95% of the way done, bring an SCV or 2 SCVs up as that's happening, and then immediately as you lift, you can make depot. Easy peasy. And like these depots are fine. And this is around the time when you would be making your or soon you'd be making your next like 3 racks. Yeah, you're doing a little bit of your timing attack. So this
the timing is late for like 20 seconds, right? So he said like this could hit at the 4th at 6:45, but no matter how hard I try it, it's always like 30 seconds late. So I'm not sure what is exactly going wrong. Like 30 seconds is...
So the easiest way we could go through this, which we could do this right now if you wanted to, but because I mean, like I said, I watched the build, and I you know, I got an understanding of what you're going for here, but I didn't memorize every single timer of it. But the easiest thing you can do here, where you can memorize every timing of a build, is literally notepad trick. I'm not even kidding. Like if you went back to his build and you exactly fucking calculated minute to minute where you're at compared to where he's at, you would find out where you're going wrong.
Okay.
And like your supply block is the biggest thing I would say that I've seen that has messed you up. And I haven't really been watching your SCV production very like you know, like a hawk. Like I haven't been staring at it the entire time because we've been talking a lot more about concepts here. But if you are missing ever any production cycles, like for instance that barracks is idle at the moment, definitely shouldn't be idle. And if these racks also go idle, which they are right now, terrible. Like that's shit you definitely don't want to happen. And they're idle for a while right now. This is shit that'll definitely fucking ruin you for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just maintenance, really. Your build's close, so it's literally, it's one of those things where you don't have to fix a lot to fix that. It is close. But the thing that'll make it hard though is incorporating a harassment. So doing it against, that's why I said if you want to do it in like 2 stages at the very start of this lesson, doing it against AI is going to be way more attainable than doing it against a real player, because you're not really harassing this guy at all. You're just kind of like, you did a Reaper poke, but you backed off. You didn't harass at all with Hellions, because I mean it's fucking AI and he's doing his own thing anyways. And then you like AFK the Liberator. But if you're actually microing the Lib and you're microing the Hellions, it'll make it so much harder to actually still hit those timings, which you could do if you got really good at it. It's just that's like the next step for sure. That's the step that'll take you to like GM with it.
The push outside the 4th, should I leave Marines like the tank, or like, so number one, is the tanks okay here, assuming that there's a 4th, or being too greedy?
No, that's fine, honestly. I would say honestly, a way you could probably do it in a way that would, I think, maybe even make more sense would be put your first tank where, like this tank right here against the wall. I think it's great. It's harder to kill. It's way more realistic for your Marines to like kill off of that, and you'd be fine. This tank, however, could literally be like right there, or like right here or something, instead of over here. I think this tank is a bit compromised. I think the only reason why you would ever want a tank to be here instead is if you, for whatever reason, had vision of here and you wanted to kill Zerg as he crossed a little bit if he was going to flank you. But if he's going to flank you and the tank is here, this tank is just going to die. because you're not actually pushing this, you're poking this. If that makes sense. Like, this is a small force. It's not a big push. So if you're going to do a small force, instead of thinking about, like, there's two ways to attack as Terran. Instead of thinking about how do I cover as much area as possible, which is kind of what this is, because you're covering the front choke point and you're covering the side flank line. That's a lot of area to cover. So your tanks are somewhat, like, your tanks spread wise is not bad in terms of how far apart they are from each other, because they literally cover each other. But this tank is just super exposed for no reason, I feel like. It's not even against the wall either entirely. It could get surrounded. But so like if it's a poke, you should be thinking about how do I maximize like time in you know what I'm doing here. Because again, all you're doing right now is you're poking Zerg, and if you can kill the 4th base, that's wonderful. If you can't, you know, then you want to kill as many units as possible. But you want to do so. The way you do that with minimal units is you tuck your units away instead of leaving them a bit more exposed. Because leaving exposed, you only really do that if you're confident you're going to win a push, and this is not a push. If that makes sense. Like this could be a lot bigger if you just never built your 3rd base and you made 5 racks right away, and you were pumping tanks the entire time and not even making Hellions. You would have like 6 tanks with this and like triple the bio count or something like that at this point in time. So that would be a push, but then you wouldn't have a 3rd and you wouldn't have anything to fall back on. So like that would need to like be more aggressive. So covering area and pushing forward aggressively would be how you'd want to do that. But if you put the tank back and you tuck it away, if the Zerg attacks that, the odds of you getting a lot of kills there is a lot higher. And also the odds of you unsieging your tanks and loading them into medevacs with your Marines is also a lot higher if you want to evacuate. But when they're when this tank like this is fully exposed, the odds of you unsieging this and getting him the fuck out of there, or the odds of him getting a lot more shots off, are really low.
Okay.
Ready for dust off.
Armed
I think that's it for this one. Like the rest is just going up to 200.
Yeah, that's fine. I would say the last thing too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend probably killing the 4th base if there is one, and then killing whatever creep is in the area for a second, and then just leaving. Like, don't actually leave this army here. I would definitely recommend having it back up and like load them up into medevacs or something, if you have to, if the Zerg is going to attack it, and just regroup with your main army and push again about a minute later. Because if you lose this, if you fight with this until it dies, your timing that you're wanting to hit for 200 supply will be probably like 30 seconds or like 25 seconds later.
Okay.
Because that video also, one thing you gotta always remember, which is why it gets kind of skewed sometimes. He lost 0 units because he wasn't fighting Zerg. So when you do it in a real game, you gotta be a little bit, definitely be a little bit generous with your timers a little bit if you're like trading something every once in a while. All right, I am opening up your other one against Free Butt Touch. Oh man.
Yeah. Like, I actually played 6 customs with him. Like, he beat me 6-0 that night.
Okay.
Like, at the end, I had to switch to mines to actually go to the next phase of the game. But, yeah.
What league is Free Butt Touch in? Or what's his MMR?
Diamond 38.
Okay.
3800.
Alright. Let's see what you're doing here.
I think it's the same thing, same map. Like,
Yeah. Well, this time though, like build wise, we'll try to keep an eye on, like, you know, if something's really falling apart, like a fix, for instance, like the command center thing, like that's huge. If you do shit like that,
Okay.
like you just keep your time, like if you're not just sitting on a bunch of minerals essentially, and you're making sure things are flowing. But we'll also watch that while you're doing attacks, and I'll try to like give you attack strategies on like how you can spend your time if you're actually falling behind. Because that is one thing I also noticed in the last game too. When you moved out against the AI, just when you moved out, you stopped building out of your racks for like 15 seconds.
Like, yeah. There was a few games where I moved out and then I macro and then I got surfed.
Yeah. I mean,
So I was
no, for sure. Like, I think the thing that's really hard to do to like just build into your mindset when you play Terran is definitely just always having your not looking at your base while you're doing some type of an attack, but always looking at your subgroups in the bottom and initiating a command that you can't recorrect. So like if you're like, Hellions are here, I want you guys to go there, attack that direction, and then at the same while they're going from here to here, that's like going to take 2 seconds, and in those 2 seconds, checking your production cycles, and just quickly doing that all the time. Like in every if the next time you make a command where you go like Hellions now move this way or Hellions move this way, production cycles. Like you're always doing it. It's easy to do production cycles once you have all production, because if you miss it for a second, like let's just say you hit the end of a production cycle, you just hold the fucking button down and you're remaxed, and you're like, cool, all my production's filled up, and it's a little bit more forgiving late game to do production cycles than when you don't have to do it every like 5 seconds. Because also by then you're not making SCVs either, so you take that out of the production cycle rotation as well, and you're also not making depots anymore, so you take that out of the production cycle as well. But early on, you definitely need to maintain production cycles constantly, otherwise your build will fucking suffer. So it's it's harder to set it up than it is to maintain it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when I move out, is it a priority to clear overlords? Like there's going to be an overlord at my natural, and then there might be overlords on the way. Should I clear them?
Are you talking about with the Marine?
No. When I move out at the 7-minute mark.
Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, what? No, it's not really a priority. If you see it, kill it. I would definitely say your priority is to starve Zerg. Like, the worst thing a Zerg can experience is feeling like they have to fight you because their base is going to die and their creep sucks. That's the worst position Zerg can be in. So you definitely want to not give Zerg time by taking detours to go kill overlords around the map. You definitely want to just make sure if you have done a good job of killing creep, you capitalize on that. And if you have not done a good job of killing creep yet, you start working on that.
Okay.
Like when your push comes. Okay, so watch your production here. So like right there, I know it's so tempting to attack with your Reaper. This is why I'm kind of glad we're seeing a real game now. Try never to let this happen. Like you can poke the Zerg with the Reaper, that's totally fine, but try to never let yourself get this low, where you're like 20 hit points. Try to always be like, okay, if I'm at 45, fucking stop. Like, let's just chill for a sec. Only with your first poke. Because this poke now, what you've done to yourself, this is what Zerg wants you to do. You can't deny a creep tumor now. It's impossible. Because if you try to deny a creep tumor, you're going to die for it. So this Zerg is now going to just plant a free tumor here as you leave. And you're too low to stop it. So right now, a normal Zerg would plant a creep tumor, just like that. And you're going to be like, fuck. Okay, now, well, he's got a lot more creep. But if you denied that, that sucks ass for... Like, that is so shit for Zerg if you kill that. Like, the first creep... Because the thing is if you kill this Zerg does not want to plant another creep tumor. He wants to inject his base. Because if you make him miss another inject because you kill a tumor and he wants to put another tumor down, which is not a bad thing for Zerg to do if that happens... You just screw over. It's like you killed like 6 drones by killing that tumor, because him not making an inject first is like 3 larvae gone, and then now if you kill it and he does it again, that's another 3 larvae gone. And Zerg does the reason why Zerg really wants this is because if they're going to take a third like he is, they need this to protect drones at the third when you have Hellions, because if they have no creep at all and you have Hellions just going back and forth, you can kill drones and lings all day, because there's going to be just like open patches of no creep all over the place. So yeah, and then also save your grenade as well when you want to kill that tumor, if possible. If the Zerg does a good job, like the way this guy planted it though, it's going to be hard to kill it anyways with how far back it is. So you might not get it. Definitely try not to die for it. But if the Zerg is a little sloppier and he allows you to kill the tumor, definitely try to fucking kill the tumor. It's so worth it. But now automatically though, even if you can't kill the tumor, even if you can't kill it, seeing that he did that should have been your priority a little bit earlier. Because you didn't even check it this game. And if you saw, okay, yeah, there's a tumor there, this would reinforce macro not all in. So you would reinforce build is going to go as normal, and you don't have to worry about getting hit by a timing. Alright, so your Reaper scouting is fine, and he's got a drone on gas, which is totally normal. So a lot of Zergs also leave 2 drones on gas, which is also totally normal to eventually get like Overlord speed or something like that. 3 drones on gas is a bit excessive. That's definitely gonna be a big ass gas bank for Zerg. That's just gonna exist. Okay, now your Reaper should like what you're doing right now. Perfect. Reaper should go home right now. Perfect. And you should definitely not move out though. This should not move out. This is not perfect because Zerg is gonna watch this. Zerg most likely has an Overlord there, and he just watched you leave his base or leave your base, and this could easily get zoned out by queens. And these Zerglings, if this guy wanted to make, you know, more lings, and this also his speed is kind of late, but if this guy wanted to make like let's say he wanted to make an extra 8 Zerglings when speed was about to be done, and he saw you leave your base going towards the north, if he was like, I'm gonna go towards the south, and as speed finishes, he's like right here, and then he sees you on the edge of his creep right here with your Hellions, and he just runs in your mineral line. You will, if you lose your mules and your SCVs here, that obviously is like super damaging to you. It sucks ass. So never do what you just did here. You're just taking a risk for no reason.
Okay.
Always wait for that CC. Nice attempt on micro there. He focus fired your Hellion and you tried to move the Reaper in front. That was a good attempt. I saw that. That was nice. Definitely always do that. Always try to put the Reaper in front. Okay, and like right now you're not making SCV. Critical. Not making SCV. Critical. It's definitely going to be harder to... So I would say best thing for you, for now, do the Reaper phase the way I told you to do the Reaper phase. Try to really understand the opener of Zerg. For the first, like, up until 3 minutes. You know, like, when you're going to pull the Reaper back, essentially. Like 320 or whatever. But after that, be very, very passive with your Hellions. Like, poke the creep, back off. Do not, like, just watching your macro, do not ever go for drones right now. Ever. Don't even ever try. Don't even go for drones with the Reaper. Just chill, because if you go for drones and you fucking stop making your own shit, you're just gonna fall behind anyways. And it's putting you in a position where it's like, hopefully I kill a drone to not fall behind. Like, or to like just stay even, because I'm falling behind by myself because there's too much shit going on right now. I think eventually you should absolutely try to kill drones once you get really comfortable with like where everything just feels like you can nail it out in like a half a second or a second with like just your timers are just solid. Then I would say incorporate drone killing, but for now, super chill on it. Okay. And yeah, just go for creep only. Like poke creep, back off. Poke creep, and also keep in mind too, if you ever see a creep tumor. So whenever you poke creep, what you're trying to do is you're trying to see if you can find an active tumor to deny. That's all you're trying to do. You're not trying to scan it. You're just trying to kill a new tumor that would exist. And if you ever catch one, take a second then to circumvent the creep and make sure you can catch more. Because Zerg generally a lot of times will spread creep in waves, not in singles. So they'll be like, all creep. Okay, wait for cooldown. All creep, wait for cooldown. Most Zergs don't go random creep tumor, do a couple tasks, random creep tumor, do a couple tasks, random creep tumor, do a couple tasks. That's not what most people do. They do it in waves. So if you find a creep tumor that's... So like, for instance, to understand that would be if you catch a creep tumor and it's almost done. It's like you caught it right as it was finishing. You shouldn't really try to like put a lot of effort into scanning for more... Or like not scanning. I didn't mean to use that word. Into checking for more creep. You should just go somewhere else and get ready for the next wave. And then you're good. But if you catch a creep tumor that's like just starting or like 10% of the way in production, definitely check for more kills because you have time to kill it. And another thing to keep in mind too, whenever a creep tumor finishes, okay? If a creep tumor finishes, give it about 10 seconds and check again. So if you see a creep tumor finishing, try to memorize a mental note in your brain that goes, okay, I have 10 seconds until I should probably look again, because it's like an 11-second cooldown on a creep tumor to be ready to go again. So like if after it's finished. So what you can do is if you park your Hellions like outside a creep a little bit and you just wait for 10 seconds, and if you have a moment to spare, then you go in again. It's going to give you like a second or two, like probably like 2 or 3 seconds of travel time to go to the edge of creep again, and you'll catch a tumor that's as it's spreading again if the Zerg is diligent with it and doing a good job, and you'll just ruin that. So
Okay.
yeah, just having a kind of a mental note of timers of how to fuck creep over is good too. You don't want to always be checking the whole time, because that's bad. If you're always checking the whole time, and sometimes you shouldn't be checking because it's a waste of time, that's how you fuck your build up. Because you're spending way too much time on not your build and too much time on trying to ruin his. All right. Lib is going over here. That's nice. Okay. Okay, there's a depot finishing. And then, yeah, your build's definitely crippling a little bit here. Like, Marines aren't starting. About now, definitely would want them to be starting up. I feel like the reason why they're not starting as well is because you're actually under what you should be in terms of resources. And I feel like that comes from... So this is actually something that's really important to understand. If you ever find yourself in a moment like this, where you have a good amount of gas, like you're not gonna like barely get enough gas for these medevacs. Like you have more than you need right now. I mean, you could make another tank too with it, but basically what I'm trying to say is if you ever maintain gas timers on a build, if the build's like, okay guys, when we're at this moment in the game, we need to set up our double gas for our our natural, to make sure we have gas to support our tech or whatever like our upgrades or anything that requires gas. If you maintain gas timers the way the build says that you want to do it, and let's say you do it by time, but you miss SCVs, that's going to double impact you negatively. Because making gas when you're under mineral, what you should be, is going to feel more painful than if you just delayed the gas and did it. Because like a build is supposed to work in a way where you have to have a certain amount of economy for it to work properly. But if you're under what you should be economically, and then you add gas on top of that to maintain what the build says you should, the build will double negative it, because you're never going to be able to spin the gas you're going to mine now, and you're going to undervalue your minerals even harder. So it's going to make it harder to hit every timer when it comes to minerals, like bio and like depots and stuff like that. It's just really it's fragile as fuck, and that's why it's so important not to ever miss SCVs. It will ruin the entire build, even though you think you're doing it right, because you can't afford what you're supposed to have. And that's something you're definitely doing this game, I feel like. Your gas is kind of crazy right now. And again, it's because I feel like you missed some SCVs earlier. And like right here again, if you... I know you're fighting with the Hellions, but in the future, I would say, this is going to be those moments where you want to line up your aggression also. Like, understanding how to attack the creep is important, but always do it as a secondary as well to your build. So whenever your build needs something to happen that requires you to be here in your base, always prioritize that first. So whenever you do that, always put your Hellions in a safe location. Or a safe location. Or a safe location. I can't, for my fucking gas, I can't like click that for some reason. Always put your stuff in a safe location. So like, if you need a second, don't just AFK there. The only time you ever AFK there is if you're a fucking god of multitask and you are like instant reactions on minimap, and you're like, oh, he's coming. Okay, now run up, kite. I'm gonna start kiting while also doing depot and swapping and lifting and landing. There are Terrans that can do that. That's like, again, that's higher level shit. But if you're not 100% confident that you're in the god of multitask, definitely give yourself a break and back off to do that. So like one of these checkpoints for you would definitely be anytime you need to lift and swap. That's a checkpoint where you need to give yourself a sec. And another, and that applies to the command center as well. So when if you see the command center is almost done, get ready to fucking give yourself 5 seconds to go lift, land, depot, rotate SUVs, and drop mules. Honestly, that'll probably take you like 5 seconds.
Okay.
And then once that's over and you're right back into the fucking autopilot of just subgroups in the bottom, then resume Hellion Harass and pick up where you left off with like the 10-second creep rolls and shit. But yeah, always think to yourself every single time, lifting a building is a checkpoint. Always think that. Anytime anything needs to be lifted, that is a checkpoint. Because later on, it's like around now, you don't really need to be harassing that much anymore. Once you have your third, like you still can. I want to know you still can, but it is okay if you don't. The only time you should be harassing is with the Hellions is honestly up until you have your third down. Because at this, I'm not gonna lie, at this point of the game, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. You're not really gonna like suddenly do nothing until 6 minutes and 30 seconds against Zerg, and then right at 6:30, you're gonna get a lot done with harassment. Like, this is that moment where like if you continue to try to harass Zerg at this point in time, whatever you harass with is probably just gonna die. So like harassment stage of the game is, I would say, up until about like 6 minutes, like maybe slightly after 6 minutes. Like literally, like the checkpoint for you would be as soon as you take your third, at the third, stop harassing, unless it's with a lib. Lib can harass still because who gives a fuck? If it's still alive, you're doing an amazing job with the Liberator. Then that's all that would mean. Especially if it's getting kills every now and again. But yeah, like a Zerg is gonna be like, so like, also the reason why this is important and relevant is because any damage you do to a Zerg right now, it's late enough in the game to where he can bounce back super fast. And you definitely, all you're doing is you're compromising these units, and you don't want to lose these because these are what's going to help you if you get counterattacked when you do your real push from like a Ling counter or a Bane counter.
Okay.
And that'll make it easier for you as well at this point in the game to hit your timers with like your extra 3 racks, your 4th CC, your max, stuff like that. But just so you know too, I want this to not be bad advice for you, and I want you to understand that there is room to grow, okay? I did tell you, focus on creep, don't focus on killing drones. That's going to mean the Zerg is going to be as powerful as possible when you do pushes. Okay? Because the only way you really limit Zerg's pushes is by doing one of 2 things. And it's the grand scheme of it is you're killing larvae, but you need to either be killing Zerglings and making him remake Zerglings, or if you literally kill drones, then you're killing economy that needs to be rebuilt. Every time you whittle down his larva count and make him rebuild shit that dies, only makes it easier for your push when it does push. But the only reason why I don't want you to do that yet, I do want you to do that eventually, okay? That is something I want you to grow into eventually. So I'm not saying never do that. Definitely do that when you're comfortable, but I don't think you should do that right now. I think what you should worry about right now is worry about creep right now because it's easier. And it's like the stage 1 of the attack when like you could amplify it further and go for units as well later on when you're really comfortable. But for now, if you just limit creep a little bit and also you don't fuck your build up, that's priority number 1, because if you did like prioritize heavily always going for unit kills, and either you lose your Hellions straight up and Zerg no longer has any type of like throttle at all, which is really bad for you, Or if you throttle Zerg a little bit, but you throttle yourself a lot because you're just fucking your whole build up entirely, and this timer is a full 50 seconds late, or like a minute and 10 seconds late, because you're like, oh my god, I spent so much time lib Hellion harassing that I have forgotten so many fucking macro pieces that I should have been doing. That's definitely going to hurt you the most. So definitely try to balance it, get really comfortable with the macro side of it, and slowly incorporate more and more harass as you get more comfortable. It's a growing process for sure. But once you get to a point where you can actually start killing larvae for Zerg, things that cost larvae, you're going to be like, holy shit, it's so easy to beat Zerg. Because if the Zerg ever does chase you off creep and you throttle his lings out, like, you just kill 20 lings because you kited off creep and you ran to a choke point and he chased you or something like that, you're gonna get such like these pushes then you'll do later will feel so much easier. And what I think you should be doing now is like this push right now, you want to definitely be careful with it. So it reinforces what I said a second ago with tuck it away. Do not be greedy with how you place your tanks. That tank, amazingly placed. This tank, I don't like it as much. It's not the worst because you did tuck it into a corner. But the thing that kind of is rough for you is these tanks don't actually cover each other anymore. So, like, they're just out of range of each other. So the Zerg could actually have, for instance, if this Zerg took a second and, like, you know, methodically was like, how do I break this easier? If you flanked your tank here, your tank would get, like, no assistance and it would die real easy. Or very little assistance. And like right here too, another way you can micro this in a more effective way, honestly. So let's just say, this is also why you should put your tanks closer together a little bit. Let's say you did it the way we talked about the first time. You put your first tank like right there. You put your second tank like right there. What you can do is you have your Marines go forward to poke the hatchery or whatever, or poke the creep, things like that. The fact that you scan here is great. When the Zerg comes forward, you see him already engaging you now. Back off, like literally back up. You can lift off with the Marines if you really have to. That's not ideal though, because then you have to re-land. But definitely get the fuck out of there. You should like already be expecting this a little bit. So another way you can do this as well to make it even more guaranteed that you're not gonna like really fuck your Marines up a little bit is maybe leave out of your 17 Marines here, maybe leave 12 of them or like 10 of them back and send like 5 or 7 of them forward. Because you're not trying to kill the hatchery right now. Because again, I want you to, again, the build says kill the hatchery, right? But if you're going to approach this in a way where you're not killing drones and you're not killing lings, Zerg is going to be fucking powerful in moments like this. They're not going to be pushovers. So what you should maybe think about doing until you get way better at killing the larva is how can I be cost efficient? So what you could do is, like I said, you could leave like some Marines back, fully expecting to not kill the hatchery yet, but instead expecting to kill larvae. So if you leave some Marines back, and let's say the Marines in the front are compromised because they're on creep, even if they stim pack, they're going to get surrounded. If you lift those off in the medevac, it's not that big of a deal because it's only like 5 Marines or something. And you can just boost it back and land behind a tank over here. And meanwhile, the Marines that are already back, all you do is you allow Zerg to engage a tank and you kill him off the tank. So if that's why this tank positioning is not great. If you had a tank like right there instead, you could back up to like between your tanks, kill off your tank, and then when you realize your tank is about to die, run back to a choke point and kill off your tank again. And suddenly you're killing, instead of killing 20 Zerglings, you kill 60 Zerglings. Because your Marines are doing full DPS while resetting the Ling attack on a tank. Because every time it's a melee unit, right? So a Zergling gets on a tank and your Marine kills it off the tank, and then a new Ling has to take its place. And it makes the Marines do so much more, have so much more time to do damage because the Zerglings keep resetting themselves because they have to keep retaking places of dead bodies.
So you're saying use the tank as a wall for the Marines?
Yeah, use it as like a meat shield.
Oh, I thought it was the other way, that Marines should be in front of the tank.
I don't. So that's if you're going to win the fight. That's again. Okay. That's if you were doing damage to Zerg and killing larvae. Like you like basically, if you're not gonna kill larva, you have to respect that Zerg is gonna be fucking powerful in these pushes. And you can totally win, but don't think that if you. So that's why this is really important to know this. If you do a great job with your Hellions, and you do a great job with your Liberator, and you've killed. Again, don't think about Zerg in a sense of drones or a sense of lings. Think about Zerg in a sense of larva. So, if you kill 30 units, and let's say 12 of those were drones, and 18 of those were Zerglings, that is equivalent to 9 larvae with Zerglings, because you have to. It's only 2 lings is 1 larva, and it's actually 1 larva per drone. So that's 12 drones and 18 lings. So that's 12 plus 9 is 21. So you killed 21 larvae. If you killed 21 larvae by the time you do a push here, that's not bad. That's pretty good. That's definitely like not bad for you. And you could definitely see a moment in this position now where being confident to push forward in front of your tanks is realistic. Like there's a good chance you're going to fuck them up. But if you kill 0 larvae and you do this push, thinking you're going to break through this and push forward is very unrealistic. And you're going to just realize you're going to get ran over. You're just going to get fucking run over. It's going to be like a semi-truck hitting a little smart car. Like you're going to get fucking destroyed. Because Zerg, that's why I was saying Zerg, the more damage you can do to Zerg early on is going to be, it's going to be more impactful early on in the game, because Zerg can't really bounce back from larva losses as easy earlier on in the game as they can later on, which is why, like I said, I emphasized early on, if you killed that tumor, if that's possible, getting rid of that larva inject early on is fucking massive. If the Zerg does another tumor, that's so huge for Zerg to lose that. And then if you actually, once you're better with Hellions and once you feel comfortable, and Liberator as well, if you actually knock out a decent amount of larva with your Lib Hellion, it's gonna make this army literally half or like a third of the size. So instead of this Zerg player right now having 68 drones, 56 lings, and 16 banelings, he would have 68 drones, like 20 Zerglings, and like 7 banelings, or like 5 banelings. So it would literally be like same drone count, but like a third of the army size because you killed a ton of larvae. That's what it would feel like, because the Zerg is always going to want to saturate 3 bases. Like, the only way a Zerg is ever going to be comfortable stopping drones at, like, 42 and just having this... Like, because if you killed... Again, if you killed, like, let's say 20 larvae, and let's say it was all drones, and this guy literally was like, you know what? 48 drones for me. That's what I'm doing. This guy is all in, and you just got to defend, like, the major army, and as long as you don't lose all your SCVs in the process of that, you just win the game. So no one's going to really... Like, some people might play it that way, but it's not going to be super common. Most people will try to hit an ideal drone count, but every larva you kill will shave down this Ling Bane count, because larva is limited. It's not like you have as much as you want at all times. So if you kill larva, he's going to always prioritize replacing the drones that he needs, and then the larva losses are going to come out of the Ling Bane count when you do your push. Most of the time. So yeah, if the army's smaller, you can push forward. If the army's bigger, and you're like, okay, this guy's got full larva, definitely try to just whittle the army down with your tanks. Because if you could trade off this entire army, or the majority of this army, by losing 2 tanks, that's a fucking good trade. I would take that trade every day as Terran. But like the way this goes, you lose the tanks anyways, and you load up the Marines. Because you tank with the Marines, and now the... Like, you get in the front line with the Marines, and the Marines don't really... Most of them don't die. You save like half of them. But the siege tanks die anyways. But you could have killed all of this army, or even more of it, if you killed off of the siege tanks. Because believe it or not, siege tanks are worse than Marines here against this army. Like your bio, like if for instance, if you had like if this Ling Bane army was just sitting right there in a blob, and you had 17 Marines with Stimpak, or you had 2 siege tanks, which of those unit groups are going to kill all that Ling Bane faster? The Marines are absolutely going to kill this army faster. Like, by a mile. Like, I'm not even kidding. If you had 17 Marines attacking that many Lings and Banes, it would probably take those Marines 9 seconds or like maybe 11 seconds to kill that Lingbane. Because it was like 50 ling, it was like 54 lings or something and like 17 banes. It would seriously take you about like 10 seconds, 11 seconds to kill that with Marines, with the amount you had. And with the siege tanks that you had, it would genuinely take probably 45 seconds for those tanks to kill that Lingbane group. Like it would take a fucking long time. Because they're not going to be they're not going to be like one-shotting all blobs of Lingbane every time. They're going to one-shot the unit they initially hit, and then they're going to weaken units around it. And they also have a 3-second, or like, sorry, a 2.14 second shot. So they're shooting kind of slow. Might not take 45 seconds. That might be an over-exaggeration, but it's going to take definitely like above 30. It's going to take a while. So your tanks here are literally the best thing they can do for you against this comp is absorb damage, not deal damage. And if you get really good at Terran, the best thing you could actually do here is have your siege tanks focus fire the Banes. Because if you can actually make the Marines never have to back up because Banes are not a threat, and your Marines then just get to sit there constantly killing Zerglings off the siege tanks, you would genuinely look like fucking Maru in this fight, and you would kill this entire army and not lose anything if you tucked your tanks into defensive choke points or defensive limited surface area positions. And I like that you're already doing that. You just want to put them a little closer together. Like, I'm not even kidding. If Mario was microing this, he probably would win this entire army and probably lose his tanks, but he'd win the fight with Marines still standing, and every Zerg unit would die. Because if you microed it the way I was just kind of recommending, you would, this specific army where it does not have Bane speed and it's just Ling Bane, you could destroy that with focus fire tank and Marine killing off siege tank. Oh, is the game over? What is my game crashing actually? What the fuck? Uh-oh. Yeah, sick. Okay, we're good. I think we're back. Okay, we're fine. But yeah, losing the tanks definitely kind of sucks. Like I mean, if it happens, it happens. But you want to definitely make it more value out of it. So I just want you to think about it more. And the medevac, I would say definitely, you don't want to do that. The way you did this, the way you kind of dove in, that sometimes makes sense. In this particular situation, I would say it did not make sense, because think about it like this. I'm gonna quiz you really fast, and I know I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second, but I want you to really think about this shit. What were you trying to accomplish in this position where you loaded up the Marines and went into the main? What was your goal there?
I thought that he has all his army below, and then his base is undefended, so I could get some drone kills.
Okay, exactly. You wanted to harass his mineral line. And I'm not even kidding, dude. Even if you did harass the mineral line a little bit, it is so easy for Zerg to bounce back from that right now at 8 minutes.
Okay.
Because you got to think about what your goal of the game is. And your goal in this game is to do a timing attack. Like a big fucking push. That's your ultimate goal. So like you got to think about your playstyle too. And if your playstyle is going for a timing that kills the Zerg, like you're not trying to harass Zerg into a defensive posture to like whittle him down little by little over the game. You're not trying to do that yet. But every time you lose units like you just did, you make it to the point to where that's going to eventually have to happen. Like, let me say it like this. This probably make a lot of sense. Do you remember in the moment in that video where that, I don't even know who that guy, what the guy's voice is. I don't know who that is. But when he's talking and he goes, this is the moment of the game that Terran has to freestyle. And then however good you are at freestyling will dictate like how well the game goes for you. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Now what you've done to yourself is you've made it now more likely that moment is going to come before you even do your push. So like you're taking the push out of the equation when you throw units away. Which is why with this build specifically, okay? It's not always like that. But this build specifically is like that because this build is all about doing a timing attack. So you want to make sure you don't make your timing attack. So like think about it like this. Your timing attack makes sense because you have a power spike that hits Zerg at a moment when it's hard for Zerg to stay alive. So if this army that attacked here would have traded a little bit of Terran supply for a lot of Zerg supply, and then you evacuate with what's left over and you regroup with your army, all that does now is like hypothetically, this is probably the easiest way to explain this. If Terran and Zerg both would have been at 200 supply when the timing does come, if you traded 8 supply here to kill off 30 supply for Zerg in a really cost-efficient way, now suddenly you're going to have a supply lead when the timing comes, which is the ultimate thing you want to go for. Like, it's going to be, you're going to have something, like, it's not always really going to be a supply lead, but I hope that makes sense, though, where you're going to have some type of a lead because Zerg is going to have less bank. Zerg won't be able to have enough spare money to tech as fast and to more things. Zerg will be more larva starved, so their remax, when you do eventually the big push, they're not going to reinforce with, like, a wave of 40 larvae. They're going to only have, like, 15 larvae because you just killed a fuckload of their larvae. Like, it's definitely something. It's gonna matter. It's gonna impact the following part of the game. So if you can be efficient, it only makes your push that much more effective. But suiciding for drones right now is not efficient at this point in the game because at 8 minutes, Zerg is not gonna take like 5 drone losses or like 8 drone losses and give a shit. He's just gonna be like, okay, fixed. And you just threw away more Marines that, like, if you throw away more cost of bio, like 10 supply, medevac, 8 marine, plus the cost of that is more expensive than like 8 drones. It's good for Zerg, actually, at this point, because the Zerg does not give a fuck if he loses 8 drones right now. He can replace that in literally half a second. But if you killed 8 drones when the Zerg only had half a mineral line, 1 full mineral line, and like 2 drones on the third, suddenly that matters. Like in the Hellion phase, if you killed 8 drones then and didn't lose the Hellions, that's fucking humongous. That's really hard for Zerg to replace that because he's not mining off of almost 70 drones. He's mining off of like 37.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, just always make sure you have that mindset with this build. Always think about what your goal is and try not to like fudge your goal up by throwing shit away when you shouldn't be throwing it away.
So that means in that particular case, the best choice for me was to pull back with the medevacs.
Yes.
And then try to hit the 2-2 timing.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
The perfect thing you could, like, again, it's like a 2-step process. The perfect thing for you to have done there would have been step number 1, realizing you have not killed larva and trying to use your tank marine to kill the 4th to actually throttle his larva as much as possible. And if you do a really good job of that, then you kill the 4th. But not expecting to kill the 4th because there's no way that that's just going to happen because this guy is full power. That's step number 1. Understanding that situation. And then step number 2 is if it doesn't go your way and the fight gets bungled a little bit and it's not the greatest, killing as much of the larva as you can while losing as little bit of your army as you can. So using your tanks, because your tanks died anyways, using them as meat shields to kill off of, to really whittle down his larva as much as possible. So what this does for your Marines is it maximizes shooting and minimizes running. So you're doing way more damage and you're actually killing way more lings, and you're expecting the tanks to die either way, which they died anyways, because your tanks died while only doing damage themselves while your Marines were in medevacs, while the tanks were still alive, whereas your tanks could have been shooting and your Marines could have been shooting, and then when the tanks actually die and now the lings are going to get on the Marines like they would have anyways, then you load up the Marines without having tanks still alive. So you're just maximizing your DPS, and you kill larva there. And that would have been the goal there. And then once that's done, you realize, okay, well, now with just Marines, I'm not going to really do much more here. Let's just go home and regroup with the rest of my units and get ready to do my push for sure. That's definitely how you would have done it. Again, different styles though. Don't worry about it right now with this build, but different styles definitely have harass ways you can play the game, and going for drones constantly all game does make sense, but that would mean that your style would need to be something that's really aggressive. Like that would be more like probably Widowmine focused, and you'd want to have more. That's probably why you felt more confident playing Widowmines against this guy, because you're playing this like you're playing Widowmines. With the way you're so aggressive with it, and you suicide with it.
Yeah, because I've been practicing like that for a while.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Nice positioning on your Hellion Lib. That's really good. You just, I mean, you gotta be careful with those banes though. Right now, what you should be doing absolutely is just double, like either green boxing and control clicking your SCVs, or double clicking your SCV or something like that, and literally mineral walking up here right now. Just click this for a second. Because if you let these banelings roll in the mineral line, this is going to be a lot of... You're going to lose almost the entire mineral line now. Yeah. It's a little for you. So the best thing you could have done there would have been... as soon as the Zerg leaves your natural and commits to the base over here. So like right about... I'll show you the exact moment. It's a little bit before this. Like a second before that. So Zerg shows up. He tries to go in your natural, right? At first. Okay, now like right here. The second you saw him go north, leave your tank siege. Do not unsiege your tank. Honestly, it wouldn't even be a bad idea to siege up your second tank. But take your army, like select all army, and like a move right here, right now. Just to select all army and like stim pack it as well. And then, because you don't know how much the Zerg has over here, and if the Zerg is going to bring a bunch of shit here, at least you're sieged, and you can always tell the bio to run back into the depot wall and hold the choke point. And you have tanks and marines just blowing into Zerg here with the choke point. But if he doesn't turn around and he goes to your third base, at least you can reinforce your Hellions so you're not putting all the pressure on your Hellions. Because again, even if the Zerg does a little bit of like a bang, let's say these Banes wanted to roll into your natural instead, you still have tanks sieged. So this base is still fine. And you then on top of that, if you're like, oh fuck, it's not just 3 Banes. Let's say there's 15 Banes. And this guy, all my units are over here. All the Lings are dying, but 15 Banes are about to roll in my natural, and the tanks are only here. And it's not, these tanks are like 1 tank at the moment, or maybe 2 tanks is not enough to kill all 15 Banes. Raise the depot. So like this is totally not that scary if you take the Marines forward, if you're worried about the natural at all. But I'm definitely worried about your third, and that's a lot of SCVs. So I would definitely say stim pack your whole army, like select the army, go there, A move it, stim pack, and then kind of assess the situation, try to make units while you're doing this. And if the Zerg actually goes for the natural, obviously raise depot, whatever. If he goes for the third though, and you like if you for whatever reason have to move the Marines, just make sure you have the SCVs literally mineral walk. Definitely try to mineral walk it away, because if you just tell them to move and the Hellions are in the way, they're just gonna die.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like this could have been 100% avoided, but you just, I feel like you didn't react to it. And now this is super big. Like, I want you to know something. If the Zerg player, so defensively, it's the same exact thing as aggressively for you. If you defensively throttle his larva, that's also going to make your timing that much more effective. So this is actually, this would have been an amazing position for you if you didn't lose your mineral line. And you microed it like kind of how we just said. Because if you kill all these Lings and Banes and this guy is attacking you off creep, he's going to throw the game. Because behind this, there's literally like no units. There's like 4 Lings in his base. Or 6 Lings in his base. 8 Ling, or 10, there's 10 Zerglings in his base right now. Just 10 Zerglings. And 10 Zerglings is nothing, right? It's like 5 supply. So like if you, and you actually have a large army, and this army could have absolutely dealt with this, no problem. There wasn't even a lot of Banes here. There was 3 Banelings. You have plenty of Marines to just smash these Zerglings all day. So if you killed that, that reinforces that your timing when you do it would just be that much stronger.
Okay.
Also, if you need to as well, you can always run the SCVs down to the natural for a second too, and have your Marines escort them down by like stimming forward and having SCVs go south if the Banelings weren't in an intersection path to that. Just always make sure you are really, or like you're ready to mineral walk your SCVs the fuck out of there, because your Hellions dying at that point in the game, not that big of a deal, especially if the Zerg loses a massive army to do that. But your SCVs dying there, you now have probably lost the game, because now it's going to be really hard to hit an effective timing, because now all your production is going to be stunted constantly with your you're just going to have hiccups everywhere now because you can't afford everything. And like this drop right here, definitely not the time to drop. So like if you were gonna drop, it would make no, that's okay. Like it just would, I would say this: if your plan was to do drops, the best thing you could do for yourself right now would be leave your tanks defensive and do another drop somewhere else. Like do a second drop over here or like over here. Like start doing the harass style. It's a totally different playstyle, right? But you would want to start doing a harass playstyle of like constantly poking Zerg the whole time. It's not the time and the place for this kind of a playstyle, because again you're trying to set up a timing attack, and you're compromising more units. That's going to delay it even further. So or go ahead.
Like even in when he wiped out the SCVs at my third, the way to play it, the way that you recommend to play it is to keep being defensively and hope for him to attack again, so I could kill more larva, and then hit the timing.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
Pretty much, literally. It sounds weird, but your whole game plan here is to literally do a push and be as powerful as you can with that push. And I just want you to understand that it's still an option to play the way you're doing right now, to go harass his base. But if you play this way, you shouldn't even go for the push ever. It's like that becomes a void thing. So your whole build is now different. Because if you go for harass like this and go for harass like this and go for harass like this, if it keeps going sour and you keep losing your shit, your harass, you're never going to do the push, and because you're going to constantly keep delaying it so much that when you eventually do go for it, it's going to absolutely fail. Like doing the push needs to be early, essentially. Like, so it like, again, because I just want to make sure, let's say it one more time. You don't have to do the push, but if you're going to do it, it needs to be early, and it needs to not be delayed. So doing things like this, especially now for you, is going to delay it because it's going to divide your attention up, which is going to make you not macro. For now. Later on, again, when you're really, really effective with it all, which is hard to do, it's a little bit more freed up for you to do shit like this if you're confident you won't lose it. But if you do lose it, again, it makes you have to rebuild it, which takes time, which delays the push. So all I'm seeing right now is that if you do want to go for the push eventually, you're guaranteeing you're going to lose the game because you're delaying it more and more and more and more. And that's when Zerg is going to be like, you're going to think to yourself, like, why is Zerg so strong? Holy fuck. Like, I just can't win with this push. It doesn't feel very good because it's just so late.
When I eventually do the push, how many pens should I have? Like, would be a good amount of pens?
I'd say high single digits. Like 7 minimum would be nice.
Okay.
I would say anywhere upwards of up to 10 would be really good, but 7 minimum would be a good number. Like right there, see, like you just lost all your bio here. It's just delaying it further. And now all that's happening now is because this is why it gets kind of fucked up, because the push has never happened, and now at this point in the game, it never will happen, because you are at a most likely, because at this point now the creep is so fucking controlled on the map, and also the Zerg is on so many bases that, and also the Zerg is attacking your economy again, and if more SCVs die right now, which might happen, you're going to be feeling like you're stuck on defense until you die. And it's because you were able to control the Zerg. And it all culminates. Everything matters. The larva, like being able to throttle the larva throughout the entire game is relevant. And like the creep tumor early on mattered. The engagement over here mattered. The medevac that suicided mattered. The medevacs over here that have suicided mattered. It's all delaying and delaying and delaying and delaying you. And then your macro losses every once in a while have mattered. Like slowing you down again defensively for your own reasons, like for your own macro reasons. It all has slowed you down to the point now to where Zerg has consumed complete control of the game so far. And now, yeah, like you're in that moment now where now you're on defense the whole time. So a good position now for you to be in would be to respect that and try to let Zerg kill himself. Because trying to force the issue again of multitasking and getting around him is doable. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is doable, but it is so hard to do that when you're behind.
Okay.
Yeah, always be ready too with your SCVs. I think you did it again. You just like moved here. You're like, oh shit, run. always be ready to just move to another mineral line. Always try to go opposite of the side of the command center the Banes are on. So if you see you're getting attacked from the north, say, hey, SCVs, literally go fucking south right now. Go to the mineral line. Just get out of there. Mineral walk out of there. Get out of there ASAP. Because losing those, losing the SCVs is so bad, and losing a little bit of mining time by going to a different base and then coming back is not nearly as bad. And then if you destroy it, if the guy throws away all his Banes and your SCVs are like right here, you can always grab them on the transit and send them right back. But definitely try to stop move commanding them and try to start mineral walking them out of bases whenever that happens, because you'll lose a lot of SCVs that way.
Okay.
Another way you can do it too, if you have no way to evacuate and you're just panicking, boost your medevacs into the mineral line and just take all your SCVs, green box them, and just right click all your medevacs and just load them up. That's another way you can panic, like fix that, because that's also good to not lose. You definitely want to not lose them, because Zerg wants you to lose this, because if you lose this, it reinforces your own defense all game. Yeah, if you push right now, you're gonna die. I honestly think you die if you push right now, so I'm very scared if you do push. Looks like you might push. Because there's two things that'll happen to you right now. Number one, Zerg could counter your base and force you into an all-in right now, because you're not defending it anymore and you don't have enough supply. And number two, you're on creep and you're at a disadvantageous amount of units. You have 2 tanks pushing with just pure Marines on creep. The only person, again, it is doable, but the only person who can pull this shit off is literally like a GSL Terran. Like, you have to fucking have godlike splits and micro and stutter steps and kites and stuff like that to make this work. It's going to be so difficult to pull this off. And now that you're camping the creep, if the Zerg counterattacks your economy, you're fucked. So he attacks you on creep. That was definitely rough for you. And he's also counterattacking your economy at the same time. So it's rough both ways. And if you just had more stuff, I want you to know that Marine tank medevac scales better than Hydra Zergling Baneling. And then if the Terran player goes, or sorry, if the Zerg player goes into like ultras or something like that, something hive tech based, it's not going to be easy for you. But then that like late game style could come out, and you could actually play defensive with like ghosts or libs or PFs with those things camping it, like ghost lib tank, PF, turret, sensor tower. You could play a style like that and literally let the Zerg kill himself on you. That's always an option, but it's hard. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to know that the way you played this game was super hyper aggressive, and you put yourself into a position where you threw too much stuff away, so you're stuck on defense. That's why this feels so hard.
Okay.
So always
I think
think. Sorry, you go. My bad.
No, I think I got the point. It's because I was so used to playing the other way, and
Yeah.
then I thought I should play the same way. But like, even its bio, I should play more towards a timing attack. Right.
Yeah, you should literally think about with this kind of a style. Think about ZVT as it's like you have like a score, okay, and the score is based on how much larva you kill, and that score comes to a culmination once you're at 200 supply, and then that phase of the game is over, and then you freestyle and you do whatever you want, and then you can literally think about how the fuck can I set things up and play this out, and then it's whatever you want to do at that point. But for the setup of the build, to make it as effective as possible, you try to kill as much larva as possible, try to throttle the creep, and set up that timing. And if you do it, if your score is really high and you throttle a lot of larva, the push is going to feel like you're just going to run Zerg over, no problem. But if your score is kind of low and you didn't really get a lot of larva this game, you got to work for it, and it's going to feel hard to do that timing effectively, because that's what really makes or breaks the timing.
Okay.
And then after the timing, though, again, whatever the hell you want to do is what you want to do. Because at that point, like, once it's at that stage of the game where, like, at this stage of the game where Zerg has 50% of the map covered in creep, and he's got 6 bases with 7 hatcheries, queens everywhere, he's got larva bank for days, ideally. You playing the timing, like, this is like basically the phase of the game that is relevant to a timing attack is over. There's no more timings. It's just that stage of the game has gone. This is now just fucking in game is what it's called now, and it's literally it's like playing a chess game, or like you're just trying to figure out how to move your pieces in a way to make the win. So timing attack is over. So never try to go for a timing if you're at this stage.
Okay.
Because it will all like the only time a timing will make sense is if you go, okay, Zerg just fucking threw his army away, and I took a really good fight. Counter timing attack. Let's go. Like, let's fucking beeline it and just go run him over when he's not ready. Like, kick him while he's down, essentially. And that could be like a full death ball blob of just killing Zerg. But otherwise, if you both are kind of like just doing your own thing defensively, setting up your builds and shit, definitely not the time to just go for it and set up and plant on creep, because you're just going to guarantee you're going to die.
Okay.
Especially when you're not even 200 supply. That's definitely like another problem for you, for sure. But yeah, anyways, any questions about stuff we talked about?
No. I think it's pretty clear.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I hope...
Oh, yeah.
Just to give you my final thoughts one more time. I think this style, it's again something you can grow into, okay? Like, for real.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I do definitely mean grow into it over time. Like, that's just how Terran kind of is. And you're definitely, I definitely don't think you're going to be like, within a couple days, you're going to be microing your Hellions and killing a bunch of drones. I definitely think you should just really try to understand the concept of larva defensively, especially like how we talked about over here, where the 2 tanks and the 17 Marines and the 2 medevacs, how to micro that, really emphasize that kind of a mindset. Because you're not going to kill larva. I don't want you to kill larva. I don't think you should yet. And then once you get really comfortable with the timings of the build, defensively, try to start incorporating more aggression with your Hellions and your Lib, instead of just basic aggression. And once you get really comfortable with aggression with Lib, Hellion, then start thinking outside the box a little bit. Like, start thinking a little more advanced with your timing attack, like your Marine tank timing, and start thinking about how, if you can understand the balance of, did I kill a lot of larva? I can definitely be more aggressive. Did I not kill a lot of larva? I need to go more conservative like I was before. And then ultimately go for your push. Like your 200 supply push. That's huge. If you understand those concepts, that's going to change your whole mindset on how to play a style like this as bio. And I feel like it'll make you have a lot more success.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Well, fuck yeah. Good stuff. Good talk. I'll like I said, as I always do, I'll have this posted like tomorrow or something, so you can always check out the VOD.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Sorry, just one thing.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
The push at the 4th base. If Zerg is not engaging, like, the goal for me is just to trigger the Zerg to force him to fight with me, so I could kill off more of his units, which costs him larva, right? So ideally, if like my stuff can hit his base or give him a sense of urgency, that would be greatest, right? I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I said the conservative method of it would be maybe leave like 2/3 of your Marines back and only send like 1/3 of your Marines forward, like just outside of tank range, like, or like to where like the tank is outside of the range of the hatchery, but it is in range of your Marines that are initially the few Marines that are there, the 1/3, the 5 or whatever. Like, you know, if you have 17, you have like 5 there or 6 there. That's fine. And then you have a medevac there, and you're poking the hatchery with the Marines. If the Zerg doesn't ever react to that, you will eventually kill the hatchery, because 6 Marines or 5 Marines with Stimpak will do a decent amount of damage to that hatchery over time. Like, they do fucking pump damage. And then if the Zerg shows up and wants to attack that, if you react quickly, you can Stimpak them and stutter step back behind your tank and group up with your other Marines and start killing them off your tanks and stuff like that. But if you react poorly, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't immediately micro back, you can load up the 5 or 6 boost back, land them. Meanwhile, as they're landing, grab your other Marines and Stimpak forward and shoot off your tank. Because that will force Zerg to react, because if he doesn't, the hatchery will die. Because those Marines will pump damage into that thing and kill it in the matter of like 20 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
And cool. Yeah, that'll be a way where you can already be defensively set up to where you don't have to like panic micro split and be like, fuck, okay, avoid Bane, focus fire, do all this. Another thing that would be really cool for you to do too, big tip, at this stage of the game when you do your timing with like 2 tank Marine medevac, highly bet your Liberator is going to be dead by now. It's going to probably be dead. If it's not, again, great job. But if it is dead, make the hotkey of your 2 tanks the same hotkey as what your Liberator was, even if your tanks are still already in your bio group. Because if you can just simply stim pack your Marines behind the tanks and A-move the Zerglings, and then take the hotkey of your tanks and just right-click on the Banes, that's fucking huge.
I actually did.
You do that?
Yes. Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, great. Fucking keep doing that, man. That's really good. That's so good if you do that. Because the worst thing you want to do is have your tanks kill each other quicker because they're killing Zerglings off of the tanks. Because your tank will do... The funny thing is your tank, if it shoots a Zergling, will do way more damage than the Zerglings will do to your tank. With its friendly fire splash onto your own tank. Like, a tank will do a fucking shitload of damage to your own... It'll do, like, the same equivalent damage of probably, like, 15 Zergling hits if it shoots one time on a Zergling near the tank. So it's insane how much damage a tank does to itself if it friendly fire splashes.
Okay.
All right. Well, anyways, yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Much love. Any other thoughts? Or if not, we'll wrap it up.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, dude, have a nice Mother's Day. And have a good day. The rest of your day yourself. Thanks for watching. Or thanks for doing another lesson, dude. I appreciate it. And I'll have it posted to you probably tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy, dude. I'll see you later, bro. Good luck.
Bye.
See you, dude. All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson with Shaggy. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a Terran theory, Terran high diamond to like master's level lesson there. Hope you guys found it informative. But I will see you guys in the next video, in the next post, whatever it is. So until then, have a good one. Much love. Take it easy. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.